Tonight, a fire ravages a Moose Jaw strip mall, destroying all but 2 businesses. Also, WestJet gets the government okay to take over Sunwing with some conditions. Plus, after more than a decade of business, a Regina instrument repair shop and store is playing its last note.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, March 10th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. Regina is about to get an old-fashioned March blizzard. The snow and wind should start picking up right about now and persist right through to tomorrow afternoon. We'll have more on the storm's progress from our weather center in a moment. But first, the City of Regina is ready to respond. Here's what the city's manager of seasonal roadway operations had to say this morning ahead of the storm.
Our storm response will start when the snow starts falling. Typically, we focus on the high-speed, high-volume roads, the high-risk intersections, as well as emergency routes. We apply ice control. We plow snow off the road to keep those passable for any emergency vehicles or residents going around the city. Once the storm response ends, the snow stops, we will move into a systematic plow through the storm response and the systematic response. We have roughly around 50 pieces of equipment on the road at any given time. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when we go into storm and systematic mode. So we'll have equipment out there at all hours of the day. 10 centimeters of snow isn't nothing, right? So, and 70 K winds along with that will pose some issues on the roads with the drifting snow. If you do have to travel, plan your route. Plan to stay away from those perimeter areas, any area that will be next to an open area. Typically those tend to be worse when we get a heavy windstorm like this.
Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. 50 pieces of equipment on the road at any given time is a good sign of preparation. Ethan, how is the storm ramping up and where is it this hour?
Well, starting to enter the province now, Sam. In fact, we can see in southwestern Saskatchewan starting to move its way in, and really it's been falling in southeastern Alberta and portions of Montana as well. And as a result of that, we have a very colorful watch warning map, blowing snow advisory as visibilities are reduced in west central Saskatchewan. Through the southern portion of the province, snowfall warnings are in effect, and there is now, of course, blizzard warnings through the southeast, including the city of Regina as well. And the highway hotline now starting to report that there's travel not recommended on some roads, including Highway 7 between Fisk and the Alberta border at Sask, and Highway 44 all the way from the Alberta border now to about Dinsmore, and through southwestern Saskatchewan, a collection of roads including around East End to the Alberta border, eastward toward Frontier on Highway 18 as well, so you're asked to stay off of there. And in fact, here's a look at the camera out at Sask right now. Drifting conditions on the road, visibility starting to be reduced, so do take care if you're on the roads, and I'll have more details coming up a little bit later in the newscast, Sam.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Moose Jaw's fire department is investigating a massive fire at a local strip mall. This building was engulfed in flames last night when crews were called to Thatcher Drive around 7:30 p.m. Dollar Tree and Bulk Barn are among the commercial tenants in the mall. Firefighters battled for about 7 hours until 2:30 in the morning. William Stevens captured this footage and says it's one of the biggest fires he's ever seen.
The roof of the Dollar Tree was fully gone, just up like a Roman candle, and before you know it, I know it, Dollar Tree inside was fully involved. Fires jumped across the bulk barn, and the rest is history. It spread real fast, real hot, intense. Feel the heat across the parking lot.
Moose Jaw's Deputy Fire Chief Mike Russell says the fire started in an aisle of one of the businesses. An employee tried to put it out with an extinguisher but wasn't able to. Russell said firefighters were able to save 2 of the businesses to the east, but the center and the western parts of the mall were destroyed. He says no one was hurt, and so far the exact cause of the fire is unknown. The Western Hockey League has announced sanctions for the Moose Jaw Warriors, 4 of its players, the head coach, and the team's general manager. The 4 players were suspended indefinitely by the WHL after the team was on a road trip to Edmonton last month. Now, the league says the 4 will be out for the remainder of the season. The suspended players are Connor Unger, Max Warner, Lyndon Lakovic and Merrick Howell. They range in age from 16 to 21. Warriors general manager Jason Ripplinger and head coach Mark O'Leary have been suspended for 5 WHL regular season games effective immediately. The hockey club itself has been fined $25,000. The league says the team and team leaders were sanctioned on the basis of failing to provide the proper oversight and supervision required to ensure a safe and positive environment for players, in particular, while traveling. Details of what happened during that road trip have not been disclosed. Former judge Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond says she is satisfied in her past work, identity, and self-worth. It comes after the British Columbia Civil Liberties Association stripped her of an award because its board members questioned her claims of Indigenous identity and claims she made about some professional and academic accomplishments. In her most recent remarks since the CBC investigation last fall raised questions about her claim of Cree heritage, Turpel-Lafond said yesterday in a statement that it's, quote, liberating to be freed of honors because it permits her to, quote, focus on what really matters in her life. The statement was made yesterday to the Canadian press. The BC Civil Liberties Association has rescinded the 2020 Reg Robson Award. Turpel-Lafond says she has, quote, no emotional attachment to titles, honors, or accolades, end quote. But she did say she was surprised the association rescinded the award without, quote, basic fairness, such as a chance for her to be heard. Quote, trial by media is rampant, can be unbalanced, and cause harm, she said. This is precisely how wrongful convictions and injustice happens. Take a position based on what someone else suggests while never delving deeper into matters to determine the truth, end quote. McGill, Carleton, and the University of Regina each rescinded honorary degrees awarded to Turpel-Lafond last month. She's also returned degrees conferred by 2 BC post-secondary institutions after the schools initiated reviews in response to questions about her claims. A number of others have confirmed they are looking into honorary degrees awarded to her, including Brock, Mount St. Vincent, and St. Thomas universities. New data from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre shows fraudsters made a killing last year. The amount of money taken from Saskatchewan residents nearly doubled from 2021. This despite only a relatively small increase in the number of victims. Nicholas Frew reports.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says 2022 marked another record year for fraud and scams in Canada. Saskatchewan is no different. Last year, 790 people fell victim to various scams, resulting in more than $9.3 million being lost. That's nearly double the amount from 2021. But Saskatchewan's losses were a drop in the bucket compared to other parts of Canada. It ranked 6th on a list comparing other provinces and territories. Ontario was the worst hit. People there losing more than $213 million.
It's not surprising that the numbers are increasing across the years. It's a little bit scary to see how significant the numbers are across provinces and specifically for Saskatchewan.
Stakhanova says the numbers aren't surprising because online scams are easy to pull and can become quite lucrative, especially in tough economic times. But she says it also suggests a lack of public awareness. Data shows investment scams generated the most money in Saskatchewan last year. These are solicitations for investments into fake opportunities for things like cryptocurrency or Ponzi schemes. 65 people in Saskatchewan lost a combined $2.9 million to those scams last year, and that may be a fraction of the true impact.
We estimate that only 5 to 10% of victims actually report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So that number is only like a small sample of what's actually affecting Canadians. It's scary, to be honest, and it just shows how much work we all have to do to try to educate each other.
Horncastle says the Anti-Fraud Centre isn't sure why so much more money is being lost, given the small increase in the number of victims. But he advises people to educate themselves and others to protect themselves from fraudsters. Nicholas Frew, CBC News, Regina.
The federal health minister is vowing a clawback of federal money from provinces that let private companies charge patients for necessary medical services. Saskatchewan's share of that is just over $740,000. In Saskatchewan, patients have the option to choose to directly pay a private facility for an MRI scan. Under the rules, the company then has to provide a second scan to a patient on the public waiting list. It's the first time Ottawa has made this kind of deduction.
Whether people pay for those services is something that is part of my responsibility. And as in that context, that's why I'm announcing this morning that there will be increased deductions to transfers made to provinces and territories, and then there will be a new interpretation letter.
Saskatchewan Health Minister Paul Merriman says the province has been trying to talk to Ottawa about this approach for years. He says there's been a, quote, complete unwillingness for Ottawa to listen, and he's urging it to reverse the planned deduction. The federal government is launching a public consultation for foreign agent registry. For some Chinese Canadian, it's a move that's long overdue. Ashley Burke looks at how effective a registry might be.
Many in the Chinese Canadian community are afraid to speak publicly about Beijing's attempts to interfere. But today, several took a personal risk to tell MPs the threat is real.
China controls everything. They know everything. Even if you change your cell phone, they can quickly find you.
They say China has upped its game, and the threats they face are now more subtle, but cause just as much fear.
You get a phone call in the middle of the day asking, "So, how are your parents doing?" back in Sichuan, China. And then you get the message. That means if you don't behave, your parents' phone numbers, address, or even their physical well-being is under threat.
This Uyghur activist says just 2 months ago, he experienced a much more overt threat.
I received a phone call again from Chinese state police, from Urumqi, by taking hostage of my uncle.
The government is now asking people to weigh in on its plans to launch a foreign agent registry in Canada. It's something the community has long called for and criticized the government for failing to act sooner, like some allies have.
It is not a panacea. It will not stop every potential effort by a hostile state actor to interfere.
As long as the government has been seen as actively trying to protect the integrity of its election as well as its community, then it would send a strong message back to hostile countries.
But researchers warn of its limitations.
How effective it will be? It's because a lot of these operations are covert or clandestine by nature, right? And so even if you were to put agents and register everyone, my sense is they will find alternate means to evade.
Some are now calling for a dedicated hotline so people can report if they've been harassed and get advice on any concerns for their safety. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal government has approved WestJet's takeover of Sunwing. The airline deal was announced in March of last year. It gives WestJet a dominant position in flights to Mexico and the Caribbean. The government did note concerns considering the delays and bottlenecks experienced by travelers last summer and during the holiday season, but ultimately found the final deal was a good outcome for Canadians. Last October, the Competition Bureau raised concerns about the transaction, saying it could reduce competition for Canadian travelers. Well, it is the calm before what will be a blowing storm. Here's a live look at conditions in Regina right now, right outside of CBC Broadcast Centre. As Ethan mentioned earlier, we are under a blizzard warning in Regina and in other parts of southern Saskatchewan. But there is a light at the end of the snowy, blowy tunnel. Ethan will have your full forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by It's March, It's Madness at Capital GMC Buick Cadillac.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Physically, I know how to prepare for a storm. Emotionally, I'm very over it.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a big one like this in the province, especially one we can, I think, officially classify as a blizzard. That's what Environment Canada is calling it. So a few tips to get you prepared. Of course, travel is not recommended, as we mentioned earlier. If you have to go anywhere in southern Saskatchewan over these next 24 hours, it's going to be very difficult to get around. There is the possibility that we could see some closed highways as well. If you do have to travel, make sure you're taking an emergency kit with you. Have some first aid supplies, some extra boots, toques, mitts, that sort of thing, even a little bit of some non-perishable food items if you have to travel out. You never know how long you could get stuck for on these highways. And of course, before you venture out, you're going to want to check the highway hotline, and they do have those traffic cameras that we showed you earlier as well, so you get real-time information as to what the roads are actually looking like out there. Now, southwestern and west central Saskatchewan, we showed you that earlier, and that is where this system is starting to move into now, and it's going to quickly move eastward through the night. So around 11 o'clock tonight, we're seeing that heaviest snow just south of Swift Current, and by the time we get to the middle of the night, it's migrated in an area kind of from Assiniboia, Gravelbourg east toward Estevan. Lots of south and central getting snow at this point, and then heavy pockets in southeastern Saskatchewan as we wake up and start the morning tomorrow. And then as you're hopefully staying home throughout the day, maybe watching a movie, maybe taking care of some chores that you haven't got done for a while, we're going to start to see that snow move into Manitoba, and it will be affecting them as well. And then around the dinner hour tomorrow, really, it's just light snow and maybe some light flurries. Most of the precipitation by that point gone. Overnight Sunday and into early Sunday morning, it looks like we will get clearing in south and central. A little bit of snow moving through the north, but it's not nearly as much as we're getting in south and central, maybe about only a centimeter or two. Now, in terms of total amounts in south and central, again, close to 20 centimeters in an area from Assiniboia to Estevan, at the most, maybe 25 locally. Trans-Canada corridor, look for 10 to 15 centimeters, including Regina. Kindersley over to Yorkton, up to Saskatoon, probably about 3 to 5 centimeters. And north from there, we're really not expecting all that much. And winds have already really started to pick up, especially around Regina, looking for gusts close to 50 kilometers an hour right now. And we'll continue to see that through the night. Strongest gusts in the southeast, close to 70 early tomorrow morning. But look how quickly they'll dissipate, especially in southwestern and south central sections by tomorrow afternoon. And by Sunday, we're actually really not looking for that much wind at all. Visibility significantly reduced again in west central Saskatchewan, almost zero right now, and in the southwest around Swift Current. And that's just a theme that's going to continue through the night, as no surprise here as the blizzard conditions really pick up. We'll be getting very close to zero visibility, and really that is going to be staying that way until we get late into tomorrow night. Now, after this system passes us by, after we see about another 5 to 10 centimeters in Regina tomorrow, temperatures a little cool on Sunday, but we'll get some sunshine and a nice warm up, even getting above zero on Tuesday, albeit still breezy after this. For Saskatoon, again, 1 to 3 centimeters probably tomorrow. You'll see similar conditions as we head into next week. Sam, you said you hope this is the last storm before the end of the winter, so I'm going to blame it on you if we get anything after this.
I didn't say it publicly. Thanks for putting that on me.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Say hello to Tesher's family and friends. Hey, Tesher.
Well, if you're a fan of Family Feud Canada, you may notice a famous local face participating next week. Regina musician Tesher and his team is competing against Baby No Money's team for charity. You can catch that on CBC at 5:30 p.m. local time ahead of the 2023 Juno Awards. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. After 11 years of business, Regina instrument repair and retail store Sawchyn Guitars will permanently close May 31st. The business has become a staple in Regina. Since announcing the closure, Peter Sawchyn and his wife, Kendra Walker, have received an outpouring of affection from customers.
People have been asking, "Are you okay?"
That's the first thing people ask.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
You know, and you know, because we are older, and it's like, geez, maybe they're getting out of this because they can't. You know, somebody's dying or something. But that's not the case. We just. I keep comparing it to Seinfeld when they quit that, and everybody was in love with that show, and they left, you know, kind of when everybody was feeling high. And I think that's what we're trying to do is like, you know, as hard as this is, I know it's the right move for us at this point in our lives, but yeah, it's been hard and it's been emotional, as you can see. I think we've built something really, really nice. Love what I'm doing here, but you know, we've got to maybe pay some attention to doing other things with our life before you reach the end, I guess. It's nice to know that so many people really cared about you, you know?
Yeah. And I think we'll miss everybody ourselves. And they say, you know, there'll be a hole in the community because of us not being there. But that's a little hard to believe, but I think it might be that, well, you know, they'll get by somehow and there'll be somebody to step in that hole. And we built a lot of relationships with local bands. The Dead South were just starting when they first came in. The first year I think they started, they came in to our shop. We were brand new as well. We got to know them. They're one of our favorite customers. We have lots of favorite customers though, and we built a ton of relationships. That's going to be the hardest thing to actually leave behind is all the day-to-day kind of relationships.
Yeah, the friendships. I mean, that's been a big part of this business, is the friendships.
I'm excited about just chilling out actually after all this, the commotion and the emotional part of letting a business go. I think it'll be nice just to chill out for a few weeks and do nothing maybe.
Thank you so much for everything, for the support, and for the friendships. You know, this has been my favorite job, so it was great. Thank you.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
And stormy in Regina. I think no surprise there, Sam. By tomorrow morning, we'll still be seeing blowing snow, winds gusting close to 60 kilometers an hour still at that point, and likely the same thing heading toward the noon hour. Temperature going to be around -9, and I think that's probably where we're going to be staying temperature-wise. For Saskatoon, of course, we're not expecting as much snow, just some flurries tomorrow morning, but still on the gusty side. Northeast winds around 40, and that will continue as we head through the afternoon. A similar temperature, flurries and cloudy conditions. And before we leave you, just a quick look at watches and warnings. Blowing snow advisory still in west central Saskatchewan. Snowfall warnings all across the south. And of course, blizzard advisories now in southeastern Saskatchewan, including Regina. So take care on the highways this weekend, Sam.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, something to make you smile that totally warms my word nerd heart. Last night, Regina's Catholic School Division brought together teams from all its elementary schools for a battle of brains. It's a Jeopardy-style extracurricular event called Battle of the Books.
And the answer was Hector.
Today I'm competing for the city finals. Me and my teammates have worked for this, and yeah, we're excited about it. We have Jomi, we have Christine, and we have Trixie. We're all in grade 8.
It was definitely a team effort. Basically how it works is we made teams of 3 or 4 students, and then they had to read 8 books between their team members. And then over the course of the last 2 months, we had battles at our school library once a week. We had grades 5 to 8, so it was nice to see all the grades across the board just enjoying together and having a discussion with the books and having fun.
We wrote the notes to study it. We were reviewing it till the very moment we got out of the car. We question each other to make sure we have all the points. So we keep everyone has their specific book that they're very strong at. We try to get it to be the fastest answer, so we talk for a very short bit, and then whoever knows the answer is just writing it down right away as quick as they can. It's something that makes school more fun.
It's a huge event. It takes a lot of organization to set this up, to set up the zones. The teacher librarians in the past made all the questions. Because it's something that's done as an extracurricular activity, it's exciting for the kids because it gets them involved to feel that they're part of the school team, and just to show that reading is something that is an important life skill, and you can carry this forward in your high school years, university, and in life.
That enthusiasm for books is something I will take into the weekend. That is it for us this week. For news anytime, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Sask, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more local news and a storm update at 11. Thank you for watching, and have a great weekend. Stay safe.